and his chauffeur didn't pay that much attention to it. I mean, for driving, he went the same way all the time. And then here one morning, he goes to go there, and it's blocked off. And it's over here, and then he stopped the car and he shot him.
Was it American mischief? You know, that was investigated ad nauseum by an opposition senator, Church. Mm-hmm. And if you read the Church hearings, it's all there. And nobody was indicted. Nobody was charged with illegal acts.
Mr. Kissinger, his presence here should not be interpreted as meaning that he himself was ever involved in any plot to assassinate any foreign figure.
In the Church Committee, the CIA testified that Kissinger had been kept fully informed of the Schneider situation every step of the way, even after October 15th. Kissinger maintained that he turned off all coup plotting on October 15th.
For Kissinger to be correct, this would go down in history as one of the greatest misunderstandings between the White House and the CIA. But when you read the documents, Kissinger was very clear. He said, let us keep pressure on every Allende weak spot in sight now and into the future until such time as new marching orders are given. The CIA walked away from its meeting with Henry Kissinger, believing it had been mandated to continue trying to foment a coup in Chile.
On October 19th, according to the CIA, Kissinger's aide, Alexander Haig, was briefed by the CIA on continuing coup attempts.
One can only presume that Alexander Haig, whose duty it was to report to Kissinger on this type of information, fully briefed Kissinger on what the CIA told him.
According to the CIA, on October 20th, 5 days after Kissinger claimed he had turned off Track 2, he demanded an update on the Schneider situation.
There was no policy since to assassinate any foreign official.
Kissinger said there was no plot I am familiar with. I was not involved.
You are.
He lied. As far as we were concerned in the White House, the thing ended on October 15th. Then I think around October 23rd or so, I don't remember the exact date, they kidnapped Schneider and in the process killed him.
It may be impossible to know precisely what happened, yet it is hard to understand how, on October 19th, the CIA could have shipped unmarked guns to Chile without authorization.
He knew Schneider was certainly going to get killed, but not by us. You see, therefore it's okay. That's the way it works.
Not assassination and not murder. The hearing was very clear about that. It was accidental in terms of the United States.
But isn't kidnapping a crime?
Oh, kidnapping is, it depends on what your objectives are. I'm not going to justify it. They were not my policy.
If you were found standing over a dead man in the street with a smoking gun in your hands and the police come and you say, well, I'm sorry, but I was only trying to kidnap him, this in court does you no good at all. A murder committed in the course of a kidnap, any action committed in the course of a kidnap aggravates the offense.
The Chilean police investigation did not find any evidence to support a kidnapping. After the murder, the CIA commended the Chilean station for doing an excellent job. The CIA internal inquiry revealed that $35,000 was paid to one of the killers after the killing. Perhaps only a legal inquiry will reveal the truth.
If you could develop a scenario, if you could develop a factual basis to find that Henry Kissinger was complicit, then you could sue him in the courts of the United States. You might face some statute of limitations problems, which you'd have to try to overcome by saying that the duplicity with which Henry Kissinger has dealt with these issues, saying one thing for the official record and another thing in private and hitherto unreleased records, there'd be some ground on which to say that the statute of limitations was told by that kind of concealment.
Yo pienso que Henry Kissinger era el jefe de toda esta confabulación. Veía a mi padre como el obstáculo. O sea, este era una especie de insecto que estaba ahí, que estaba molestando, ¿te fijas? Y ese insecto era mi padre, ¿no?
¿Hay planes para dar paso jurídico?
Estamos pensándolo.
After Schneider's death, Allende was elected, but the efforts of Kissinger and Nixon to overthrow Allende would ultimately succeed. In 1973, military forces launched a coup in Santiago, killing Allende. Augusto Pinochet would assume power and begin a reign of terror that would last 17 years. The date was September 11th. 28 years later to the day, the Washington Post announced a lawsuit brought against Henry Kissinger by Rennie Schneider, Jr. to the death of his father. The news would be overshadowed by the events of later that morning.
I'm sure they would want your observations on what you see here.
On the one hand, it's a testimony to what evil can do in the world. But what the mayor and his associates have done here shows the resilience and the power of the human spirit.
As the former Secretary of State surveyed the wreckage, the campaign had already begun to see that those responsible for the loss of innocent life be captured and brought to justice.
I don't think you could have it metaphorically more perfect than that. The hunt for those who will use force against civilians or against democracy for short-term or fanatical aims of their own is now a hunt in which the whole world takes part. And there can't be any exceptions.
Whether or not Kissinger is guilty of crimes against humanity, his case raises issues about the accountability of public figures, the way the past haunts the present, and the movement for universal justice.
All revolutions are impossible till they happen. Then they become inevitable. Well, one of the things that's happened is that this movement has acquired an air of inevitability.
139 nations have become signatories to the International Criminal Court, a global judiciary with the power to try individuals for crimes against humanity.
I think the idea of Kissinger as a war criminal is a very dangerous idea. As you know, America has not signed up for the International Criminal Tribunal for fear of this.
In his latest book on international affairs, Henry Kissinger argues strongly against what he calls the pitfalls of universal jurisdiction.
It's a facet of American exceptionalism to think that international law is a very fine thing for other countries, that international law applies to everyone except Americans.
The average person thinks that morality can be applied as directly to the conduct of states to each other as it can to human relations. That is not always the case, because sometimes statesmen have to choose among evils.
I do think that somewhere down deep, he knows what he was doing. He knows it was against a lot of first principles, which is why so much is masked and hidden, and there's so much distrust. It's a very, very sad way to go through your life. Whatever he did, whatever he accomplished, I'm not sure it's worth it, because he had to live a lot more years. You know, he's been out of power for a long time, 25 years now. In his own way, the reason I don't worry about war crimes or anything else, he's got his own sentence. He's got to live with himself.